Perfect. And then I'll go ahead and share my screen so that we can go ahead and officially get started. Awesome. I just want to make sure, can everyone see the screen? Perfect. All right, everyone. So I already went ahead and gave my spiel here, just to keep it moving. Your presenters for today, as I mentioned, I'm Gretchen Cano, Human Services Manager for the City of Homestead, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mr. George Mensa, to do a quick introduction.
Good morning, everyone. My name is George Mensah. President of ACD Associates. I'm a consultant to the City of Homestead. I'm sure some of you know me through my previous work as the head of department in the City of Miami.
Thank you, George. So as part of today's webinars, just to share some few housekeeping items, everyone is muted to reduce any background noise. If you have any questions at any point throughout the presentation, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A section of the chat down in the webinar. I'll have George and myself, we'll try to monitor questions throughout the presentation, and we'll try to answer as many of those throughout the session. And anyways, we will have a Q&A towards the end of the session in which you can ask however many questions, and we hope that we can answer those. If for whatever reason you forget to ask a question or it's something specific to a borrower that you have, a client, or you wish to ask privately, you can go ahead and send us an email to cdhs@homesteadfl.gov. And then finally, today's webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on the City of Homestead's YouTube channel in case you ever need to reference back or in case you ever need to share with a colleague or anyone who may benefit from gaining knowledge from the session. That'll be available on our YouTube channel again as soon as this is over so that you can reference back. So just to go through today's agenda, there's a couple of things that we're going to be talking about, things that we'll be covering. We're going to talk about the program, our down payment assistance program. This program is funded by a federal grant provided by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So we'll give you a little bit of an overview. We'll talk about the program benefits. So we'll talk about buyer eligibility, property eligibility, what are the loan terms, the application process, what are the responsibilities, the roles and responsibilities in which the City of Homestead will share, along with lenders, realtors, as well as the home buyer. We'll talk about some of the required documentation. We'll also talk about the timeline. We'll discuss some frequently asked questions, and we'll also share some resources. And again, at the very end of the session, we'll have a Q&A session in which you all can ask your questions, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our knowledge. So a little bit about the program. The purpose of this program is pretty straightforward. We want to increase homeownership opportunities for income qualified residents purchasing within the City of Homestead. We understand that one of the largest barriers to purchasing a home is saving enough money for the down payment and closing costs. Sometimes clients may have the credit and they may be able to make the monthly payment, but sometimes they may not necessarily have enough to make that lump sum payment of a down payment or even closing costs. So we're hoping that throughout this program, we'll be able to reduce that hurdle while investing those federal home funds, again, provided by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, directly back into our homestead community. And ultimately, we understand that successful home ownership not only benefits the homeowner, and its individual families, but rather as a community as a whole. And we know that this contributes to long-term stability in our area. So talking about the home funding overview, again, this program is funded through HUD's Home Investment Partnerships Program. HOME is a federal grant program that provides funding to local governments. So that includes Miami-Dade County, the City of Homestead, and there may be other cities in the area, in the South Florida area, who also receive home funds. Specifically in the City of Homestead, we've chosen to utilize a portion of our home allocation to assist first-time home buyers. As shown in this graphic, the funding begins at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, therefore the federal government, in which they created the Home Investment Partnerships Program, which is the federal grant program. From there, those funds are given directly to the city of Homestead. Specifically, it's overseen by the Community Development and Human Services Division. And then from there, the city has created the Down Payment Assistance Program. And then from there, it'll filter down that this is available for eligible first-time home buyers to create those opportunities of sustainable home ownership. And again, the most important thing to note about this and why I talk about where this funding comes from is that the rules set as we go deeper into the presentation as to eligibility, compliance, all those rules are set by the federal government, therefore the city of Homestead, in order to be able to maintain and be able to gather or continue to receive future dollars, we must maintain a minimum level of compliance to ensure that we are following the rules set by the federal government. So some of the program benefits, we've categorized them to differentiate between home buyers, mortgage lenders, and realtors. Specifically for home buyers, it provides up to $30,000 towards down payment and closing costs, therefore making homeownership more attainable. Key word here is up to 30,000, therefore 30,000 is the maximum, but if less is needed in that down payment or closing costs, then the amount will be given exactly to the dollar to how much is needed to be able to meet that goal. Again, it reduces the upfront financial barrier to purchasing a home. And again, most importantly, it expands home ownership to income eligible families. Now, for mortgage lender, this helps qualified borrowers overcome down payment challenges. I'm sure most of the challenges of anyone that you have coming into your offices or into your organization, they probably have a plan as to how they will gather the funds to be able to do that, but sometimes that may even take time in itself to be able to gather those funds. And in addition, it complements traditional mortgage financing, and this will be a streamlined program in which it will be a lender-driven application in which the City of Homestead will be there to provide support, but the mortgage lender will be the one kind of spearheading these applications and this process for these applicants. Specifically for realtors, we want to create more opportunities for qualified home buyers to be able to enter the market and partner with you guys to be able to purchase their homes. Again, it assists clients purchasing homes within the city of Homestead. This is all very helpful and crucial information that everyone should have at their capacity to be able to share this with any future customers or prospective customers as well. And again, it provides an additional resource to help successfully close transactions. So we'll talk about some of the buyer eligibility. These are the minimum eligibility, and there is a process as to how we'll be doing this. So to qualify for the City of Homestead's down payment assistance, applicants must be a first-time home buyer. How that is defined is that there is no home ownership interest in any property within the last 3 years. So if there's anyone who has lost their home or if they took their name off a deed, they would have to wait a 3-year period to then be considered a first-time home buyer again. One of the most important things is they must meet the income requirements. This is determined by the federal government, again, by HUD. Therefore, their household income must be at or below the 80% of AMI, the area median income, in which in the next slide we'll go into the specific numbers as that is deemed by household size as well. And these are the income limits that are effective as of May 1st, 2026. This does tend to change on an annual basis. The numbers tend to fluctuate. So this will be something that you can expect to change year after year as to what those income limits will look like or what those thresholds will look like. Something to keep in mind if you guys have ever participated in any other first-time home buyer programs in other areas or even with Miami-Dade County, that AMI number can change, but specifically for the City of Homestead, it is 80% AMI. Other areas you might see 120% AMI or even 50% AMI, but specifically here in the city of Homestead, we'll be at that 80%. The applicant must qualify for a first mortgage. Therefore, again, they must obtain mortgage financing through an approved lender. The City of Homestead, we are working with any lender who's willing to participate in the program, so long as the lender is willing to also participate in our program to help out any customers or any clients looking to buy a home. With that, the home buyer must provide a minimum 3% buyer contribution. These personal funds must be contributed, their own personal funds must be contributed throughout the purchase. One of the other things too is that prior to closing everything out and making sure that at the time of application, the home buyer is ready and feels prepared and is equipped with the tools that they need to ensure that they are able to purchase their home, but also be able to sustain their home for many years and be able to make those payments. They must complete a HUD approved home buyer education course. These education courses will be required for our program at the time of application. The applicant, the home buyer, will be required to submit a certificate proving that they have completed the course through that HUD approved education course, and we'll provide the list as to which are the organizations in Miami-Dade County that are providing these courses, so that at the time that you have a client coming in, you'll be able to provide them that information, and it'll be easy for them to go ahead and enroll in those courses. Most importantly is that the home buyer must occupy the property as their primary residence. Therefore, any investment or vacation properties are not eligible for this program. HUD updates these limits periodically again. As it's updated, we will go ahead and the City of Homestead will also update those materials when anything ever changes or when a new rule becomes effective. Again, as I discussed in the previous slide, these are the income limits effective as of May 1st, 2026. On the left-hand side, you'll see the number of people in household, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the maximum threshold, which is that 80% AMI, as to what they are considered for income. So they need to be at that number or below that number. So you'll see that for one person in the household, it'll be $76,300. For four people, it'll be $109,000. And for eight people, it'll be $143,900. And again, these numbers can change on an annual basis, but as of now, up until May 2027, you can expect that this will be the numbers for eligible applicants. For property eligibility, you probably will hear me talk about this a little bit, and I'll get into those details. So for the property eligibility, the properties that these homeowners wish to purchase, because this is City of Homestead, must be within our City of Homestead municipal boundaries. The easiest way to tell is going through the property appraiser's website, which I'll go through in the next slide. But again, if you have experience using the Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser's Office, anytime you look up an address, the property folio number must begin with a number 10. If it does not begin with a number 10, then they are not within the City of Homestead municipal jurisdiction. Another caveat to that rule, if anyone is familiar, is our Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency, also known as the HCRA or the CRA. The property cannot be located within their boundaries. Reason being is that our CRA actually also has a down payment assistance program, and you can find more information on their website. Or if you even have questions about it, feel free to reach out to me and I will connect you with our CRA team so that you can learn more about their program as well. The property must be a single family residence, meaning one unit, and this also includes townhomes and or condos as well. They must meet HUD housing quality standards prior to closing. Most importantly, it must be within the HUD home maximum purchase price limit. Again, this purchase price limit is set by the federal government. Therefore, currently at this point in time, that number is at $494,000. That is the maximum sales price in which the property can cost, so that we can go ahead and provide that assistance, assuming that the applicant is eligible. And again, it must be occupied as the buyer's primary residence throughout the affordability period, in which we'll talk about the affordability period down in a couple of slides. And again, most importantly, all properties are subject to city review and inspection prior to any funding. Still discussing property eligibility, in case you guys need to know or understand as to how you determine as to whether if a city or if the property is located within our municipal jurisdiction. Again, the website to check is miami-dade-pa.gov. This will take you to the Miami-Dade County's property appraiser office, in which you can use the online tool that's known as the property search. When you pull up the property search, you plug in the address. And again, if the folio number begins with a number 10, that means it is located within our city of Homestead jurisdiction. Most commonly, this is something that I've learned throughout my career here with the city of Homestead that people tend to get confused on a lot is their address. The driver's license or the mailing address might say Homestead, but that does not necessarily mean that they are within our city of Homestead municipal boundaries. It tends to happen with areas such as unincorporated Miami-Dade, people who live in Naranja, in Princeton, Leisure City. It's important to know that that area is not the city of Homestead municipal jurisdiction. That is actually unincorporated Miami-Dade. Therefore, they are serviced by Miami-Dade County. Therefore, properties in that area aren't eligible for a city of Homestead program. But I understand that people will call it Homestead. Homestead, when you say Homestead, may be considered a fairly large area, but we are actually a smaller area in which our municipal boundaries, in which you'll see here in the map, the gray area is actually our jurisdiction. Anything outside of it typically tends to be Miami-Dade County, unincorporated Miami-Dade, or even sometimes Florida City. So folios that start with 30 again is Miami-Dade County. A folio number that begins with 16 is actually Florida City. Therefore, these properties are ineligible. Therefore, I ask anyone who is helping out any clients looking for their first home and are wanting to participate in this program, taking a few minutes to verify the folio and the address early on can help you create or alleviate any unnecessary work in the future. So it's important to know that. And we've actually provided some examples here. This is how the property appraiser's website looks like. This is how it looks like after you've plugged in the address. And the most important numbers here is to look at is the folio number right here that's in the green circle. If it begins with the number 10, again, that is the city of Homestead jurisdiction. You are good to go. If it does begin with a number 16, as I mentioned, that is a Florida City address. Therefore, that is not a eligible property. And if it begins with a number 30, that is unincorporated Miami-Dade. Again, before any purchase contract is executed, we encourage lenders and realtors to verify that the property is actually located within our city limits. And again, this is the best way to look at it. It's tried and true, and it tends to be accurate. And just to let you all know, as I previously mentioned, any properties located within our Homestead CRA is also ineligible, seeing that the CRA already has their own program. And I recommend, again, if you'd like to look into it or if you have any questions about it, please feel free to email me and I'll be happy to connect you to our Homestead CRA team so that they can share that information with you. So the CRA area borders, the north border tends to end at Northwest 9th Court. The south border and the Southwest 8th Street the south border tends to be Southwest 8th Street, Southwest 320th Street, which consists of Lucy Street and Canal Drive. The eastern border ends at South Dixie Highway, and the western border ends at Southwest 187th Avenue, which is also Redland Road. And again, properties located within these boundaries are not eligible for this program. So what are the loan terms for this program? As I previously mentioned, the maximum assistance is up to $30,000. This loan, it is a loan at the end of the day. It is not considered a grant. Therefore, there will be an interest rate of 0%. It will be considered a deferred payment loan. Therefore, nothing has to be paid. There's no monthly payments that are required. Eligible uses will be for down payment, and you can also use it for closing costs. And to talk about the affordability period, this loan can be forgiven after 10 years. years. That is the affordability period that the city of Homestead has set in line with HUD federal guidelines, provided that the homeowner follows a couple of things. One is that they continue to occupy the property as their primary residence. That's very important. And so long as they remain in compliance with all home program requirements. So again, after 10 years, once the home buyer has occupied the property after 10 years, they would come back to the city and we would help them forgive the loan at that point in which no payment was required throughout the loan. The important thing to highlight of this is the repayment in case something were to happen, if the home buyer were to sell the property, if ownership were to be transferred, if the property were ever to become a rental, or if the property is no longer the owner's primary residence, there would be a repayment that would be required. Typically here at the City of Homestead, we will only ask back for what was given throughout that process. Other areas, other cities, sometimes they will take back whatever it was that was given. And if the property was sold, they will ask for a percentage of whatever the profit that was earned from selling that property. So that's not something we're doing here at the City of Homestead. We just simply want to get back whatever was given so that we can go ahead and assist another eligible household if the property again were to be sold, transferred, or if it were to become a rental at any point in time. For the roles and responsibilities, we created a chart here to be able to explain to everyone the most important concepts to make sure that everyone understands their role in this particular program. The homebuyer is responsible for obtaining homebuyer education, providing the documentation, selecting a property in partnership with the realtor, and occupying the home. So again, we highlighted all the responsibilities of the homebuyer. Now, the mortgage lender, any mortgage lender, will serve as the city's primary point of contact throughout this process. Lenders will pre-qualify the buyer. They will reserve the down payment assistance directly with the city. They'll be the ones to collect and submit the complete application package. They will go ahead and also coordinate with the city throughout the transaction, and they will also be coordinating with the title company and the closing agent throughout this process. Now, the City of Homestead, what's our role going to look like, and how we'll be able to be of support to everyone is that we will be the one that to review the down payment assistance application to make sure that, again, it follows all home program compliance. We will verify the buyer and the property eligibility. We will be the ones underwriting that home loan, which may be considered a second mortgage. And we'll be the ones to prepare the commitment letter along with the closing documents so that we can go ahead and record the assistance that was given. It's important to keep in mind that at the commitment letter, that will be the official letter letting the applicant or the home buyer know that they will be receiving assistance from the City of Homestead. And then the down payment assistance, the funds, when are they given? They'll be given at the time of closing. So once the buyer has gone through the entire process, we've provided the commitment letter, they're good to go. Then you would coordinate with the city to handle that closing process to ensure that the funds are issued at the time of closing. Some important details here at the bottom. Again, the mortgage lender will serve as the city's primary point of contact throughout the process. The applicants, the home buyer is not the person that will be submitting these applications to the city. It's important that it goes from the home buyer to the lender and from the lender to the city. This is to ensure that all the documents that we're asking for, that they are given in a timely manner and that they are given completed and to its full accuracy to make sure that there are no delays from the city or from the lender that may impact the home buyer at the time of closing. So we want to make sure that this process is streamlined, that it's efficient to make this as smooth as possible for a home buyer. Therefore, again, complete application packages, it helps reduce the processing times and avoids any delays in closing. So going through the application with the little diagram, the first thing that a home buyer, or prospective home buyer will do is get that mortgage pre-approval. The buyer will contact a participating lender for mortgage pre-approval. Once again, the city will is not working with specific lenders, nor do we have preferred lenders for this program. It's rather any lender who's willing to participate in our program and that is willing to assist a home buyer throughout this process of being able to gain those additional funds to help them out. Once they've gone through that process with a mortgage lender, it's important that they complete the home buyer education course. Again, this course has to be a HUD approved course. So it's important that in the next couple of slides, we'll talk deeply more into that and that they follow and that they use the organizations that we've put out to make sure that they complete that course. It tends to be, I believe, an 8-hour course, so it's important that they complete that. Once they've done that, the lender will go ahead and contact the city to reserve those down payment assistance funds. It's one of those things that we need to make sure that everything is being processed in a timely manner or that we're giving the opportunity to folks who are fully ready to participate in this program. We want to make sure that we have folks who are ready to go, who are ready to purchase their home, who have done the courses, who have collected all the paperwork. Therefore, we've set a reservation validity for 60 days from the time that the mortgage lender reserves those funds with the city of Homestead. It will start a clock of 60 days to be able to close out the whole thing. If for whatever reason we are approaching the timeline of 60 days and your client is still working through some other things, or if there's some things that need to be fixed, it is crucial. Communication will be absolutely key throughout this process. It is crucial that the mortgage lender let us know or request an extension with the city, and the city will make the determination as to whether if we'll be able to extend the deadline beyond the 60 days or if we'll be unable to proceed, and then we'd have to move on to the next person. If there is a waiting list for people who are ready to go through this process, we'll have to move on to the next person. And again, from the time of reservation, the home buyer in partnership with the realtor, they will go ahead and find a home. Again, making sure that it is an eligible property and that they enter a purchase contract once they determine the home that they wish to seek out. From there, again, the home buyer will work with the mortgage lender to submit an application package. The lender will go ahead and submit that application package to the city of Homestead. We'll provide the package, the checklist, just to be able to maintain organization throughout this process, as there are several documents that are being collected throughout this process. And again, the city will go ahead and review buyer eligibility, will review property eligibility, and will ensure that we are following program compliance from all sides. And at the time of loan closing, our home funds will be provided at closing to assist with those eligible down payment and closing costs. So to talk about specifically about the HUD approved home buyer education, again, this is a requirement. If at the time of application, if an applicant has not completed this course, then we wouldn't be able to proceed in the next steps of helping them out to get this assistance. Again, the most important thing about this course is that it helps prepare first-time home buyers for the responsibilities of home ownership. We know that having a home or being a homeowner bears a lot of those responsibilities. Therefore, we want to make sure that they are knowledgeable and that they feel empowered to go through this process. It teaches them about the mortgage process, budgeting, and long-term financial success. As I mentioned early on, we want to help families get into their first home, but we also want to make sure that they are equipped with the tools to be able to have that long-term sustainability so that they can go ahead and maintain their home. So how to find a HUD approved housing counseling agency? Fairly simple. We have a link here, answers.hud.gov/housing counseling. This website will take you to the HUD page, which I'll show in the next slide. And from there, you just plug in the zip code of the area in which the person you're helping out lives in. And from there, it'll give you a list of all the HUD approved counseling agencies offering these home buyer education services. And again, why it matters, it's required as part of our program. The certificate of completion must be submitted at the time along with the application process or the package. And again, counseling agencies do provide valuable information on budgeting, credit, financing, and home ownership responsibilities. This next slide is basically how the web page looks like. I've even plugged in a QR code. You are more than welcome to scan that QR code to be able to search by the zip code. And on the left-hand side, that's how the website looks like. And actually, the letters are a little bit small, but you'll be able to see the list of all the agencies here in Homestead, Florida. We have Operation Hope, another one in Homestead. We have Centro Campesino. We have all these organizations, some in Hialeah, some in Florida City, some in Miami, North Miami. These are the 10 organizations. There's only 10 in South Florida, in Miami-Dade County, to make sure that your applicants or your home buyers go through these agencies to get that HUD-approved education course. Now, walking through the required documentation, I will go ahead and pass it along to Mr. George Mensa so that he can walk you through the next few slides.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so what we are doing here, like we've separated the required documents. Some will be home buyer documents and others will be lender documents. We first of all will have a City of Homestead down payment assistance application, which will be completed by the home buyer. We have income verifications, which these are BOEs or pay stubs, benefit statements, income statement, just like you all already collect. Then federal income tax returns, bank statements, usually 2, 3 months, the same ones as you guys will collect. Verification of down payment funds, executed purchase contract, the HUD approved home buyer counseling certificate, which was just discussed. And then we also will have to see a government issued identification and social security cards. On the lender side, one is we will have a reservation letter, which will come from the city. Then we want to see the uniform residential loan application. We want to make sure that all the information that is on the application from your side is the same as the information that we have. We want to also look at your loan estimate, and it's important that we look at the loan estimate because of the fact that we are also required to make sure that the first mortgage is not predatory in nature. So we have some requirements on the first mortgage, and we want to make sure that those first mortgage meet the city's terms. Credit report, even though we don't use credit report to make decisions, we just want to make sure that it tells us a lot more about the borrower, make sure that the borrower doesn't have any other mortgages and things like that. On the writing summary, we are required as a PJ receiving HUD funds to make sure that we have an underwriting guidelines. Now, we use those summaries to kind of make sure that we are meeting all the ratios that we need to be able to meet. Obviously, a mortgage commitment letter will tell us that this person is going to get a mortgage. If there's no commitment letter, it means we're not sure that the mortgage will be coming. Property appraisal and then affordability analysis basically is you trying to explain to us the fact that this borrower can't afford the home that they are trying to buy. Now, why is this critical? Because the income has to be 80% of median income, and we all know that in Homestead, basically in the entire uh, county, it's so difficult for people at 80% of median income to afford homes. So we want you to be able to show to us that this person can really afford a home before we move forward. The next slide. Okay, this is I just showed an example of the section 4D of the URLA, the residential application. As you can see, section 4D is very important because that is where you are going to tell whoever is underwriting this loan, that this person is going to get a grant or some type of funds from the local government. So in this case, you have to choose local agency because we are referred to the city of Homestead will be a local agency. And then at the time when you are applying, it will not have been deposited. So it's not deposited. Obviously, the source is what you put the city of Homestead. And then the amount is what you will give, which is up to $30,000. So we expect to see this when we can. Now, the next slide shows you something that's very important to the city, which means that this is a first-time homebuyer program. And so our definition of first-time homebuyer program is the same as the definition of first-time homebuyer program by the secondary market. So Fannie and Freddie defines it as someone who has not purchased a property in the last 3 years. So the first thing we want to know is that are they going to use it as a primary residence? And we need to see a yes there. Have they had ownership interest in other property in the last 3 years? We want to see a no. If you say a yes, then that person might not qualify. Now, there are certain situations where that person might qualify even though they have ownership interest in the last 3 years. And when it reaches there, I would suggest that you reach out to the city, explain the situation, and then we will look at whether the person might qualify or not. So this is very important portion of the URA, the 65A that we need to see.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. Mhm.
Moving on to the program resources. So again, this program is not officially launched as of yet. Our legal team at the City of Homestead is still working on preparing some final documentation prior to going live. So this link that you see here, homesteadfl.gov/DPA, the link is not live as of yet, so it won't take you it'll take you to basically a non-existent page at this time. But once the program does go live, that link will be functioning and it'll include several resources that will be helpful for you or any prospective home buyers. It'll have our program overview. It'll have the buyer and the property eligibility requirements. We'll upload the documents as well for the lender application package, the home buyer application. We'll have a required documentation checklist in which you all can use as a template to ensure that at the time that you're collecting documents, everything is included in there. We will also have our income limits chart, which you previously saw a couple of slides ago. We'll have that chart in there as well for folks to follow fairly easily. And again, those will be updated as time goes. We'll have a section for frequently asked questions, any feedback, or actually, in the next couple of slides, we'll have a list of some frequently asked questions. If you think there are some questions that need to be included in there, or maybe some that don't need to necessarily be included, feel free. We're happy to take any feedback. You can email us again at cdhs@homesteadfl.gov, and we'll be happy to change those questions around to ensure that we are equipping our community with the necessary tools to be able to be successful throughout this process. We will have our program policies and procedures to kind of give you all an idea as to how this program will be functioning. And then we'll be providing some forms, again, all the forms related to our program to ensure that you can easily download them. There is absolutely no need to come in person to our offices to collect an application. You will be able to download those directly from our website. If not, you can also email us to be able to get those documents, but the easiest way will be going on our website once this link goes live to be able to download everything. So as I mentioned, we'll be going through some frequently asked questions. Again, if you think that there's something that should be included or something that should be changed, again, we'd be happy to take your feedback and you can email us that. So again, who is eligible for down payment assistance program? Eligible applicants must be first-time home buyers. They must meet the income requirements. They must qualify for a first-time mortgage and satisfy all home program eligibility criteria. Second question, is this a grant or a loan? The assistance is provided as a 0% interest deferred loan with no monthly payments, no payment will be collected during that time from the City of Homestead. No payment should be given to us during that time. And the loan may be forgiven upon successful completion of that affordability period. And as a reminder, that affordability period is a period of 10 years. How much assistance can a home buyer receive? Again, they are eligible for up to $30,000 towards down payment and eligible closing costs. Again, if the property or if the assistance needed to address the gap to be able to proceed is less than 30,000, then we'll give whatever is needed at that time. It's not necessarily that everyone will get 30,000. When should a lender contact the city? The lender should contact the city after the buyer has been pre-approved for a mortgage, and the lender should contact the city to reserve those down payment assistance funds. What happens if my reservation expires? Again, reservations are valid for 60 days and it may be extended upon request, subject to the city's approval. Some other frequently asked questions: how are applications processed? Applications are reviewed on a first come, first served basis, subject to funding availability. That's very important to note. If for whatever reason the city has completely run out of funds, we'll have to close our program for the time being until Home can fund or provide us with additional dollars, in which Home, seeing that this is a federal grant, we are awarded on an annual basis these funds, but yet again, depending on how many people we receive, how many people are approved, these funds can finish early on, depending as to how ready applicants are to go throughout this process. What can delay the review process? The most common delays are caused by incomplete application packages or missing documentation. Therefore, again, lenders are encouraged to use the city's document checklist before submitting a package. Where can I access the program materials? Again, upon the official launch of our program, all applications, forms, policies, checklists, and resources including, for example, maybe other housing programs such as the Hometown Heroes program, or other programs that may exist within Miami-Dade County, or resources in terms of the video recording that you can all reference back again. And this will be available through the link homesteadfl.gov/DPA. And who should I contact if I have any questions? If there's any questions whatsoever about our program, again, this program is overseen by the Community Development and Human Services Division. This is our phone number is 305-224-4408. And again, our email cdhs@homesteadfl.gov. In the sake of full transparency, I highly recommend that the preferred method of contact be email. The Community Development and Human Services Division oversees multiple other programs. Therefore, in order to keep things organized and to ensure a proper and timely response, we ask that you contact us via email so that you can go ahead and get a response as soon as possible. One of the things I highly recommend that's not specifically tied to this program is to stay connected with the City of Homestead. The biggest reason why I would recommend many of you could scan the QR code or make sure you follow us on social media, is that, as I mentioned, the program is not officially launched as of yet. This was an informational session to equip you all with the tools and resources to be able to assist home buyers. At the time that we officially launch our program, we will put out information on our social media. So on Facebook, you can follow us at City of Homestead Government. On Instagram, you can follow us at the City of Homestead. We also have LinkedIn, and we also have our YouTube channel. So once the program is officially launched, we will send out a press release. We will put out social information on social media. You'll probably see a promotional video from us posted on our social media. Therefore, I highly recommend you all scan this QR code that's on the right-hand side of the slide. This is our city newsletter. On a monthly basis, our communications does a wonderful job to update our community members on events that are going on throughout the city, on programs, on initiatives, on public meetings that are happening throughout our community. And the perfect way to get that information straight from the source will be to scan this QR code and enroll for our city newsletter. Again, once the program is officially launched, anyone who subscribed to this newsletter will get the press release and all the program material, letting them know, hey, the City of Homestead has officially launched her down payment assistance program. and that's when applications will become available. And at this time, again, I thank you all. We were able to finish this PowerPoint slide fairly quickly. So we hope that you guys were able to gain some knowledge. Of course, we always want to hear from you all. So again, I invite you all to submit your questions in the webinar chart, in the webinar chat. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to see what questions we have so that we can go ahead. We'll serve the last 15 to 20 minutes to be able to answer your questions. I know this session was supposed to go until 12:30, but we were able to finish fairly quickly. So again, I thank you all for joining us. So let me go ahead. I'm going to open up the Q&A here. Hello,
Um,
good morning, everyone. Go
yeah,
ahead, George.
can I say something before the Q&A? I mean,
Absolutely. Please do.
nobody has asked this question, but I'm going to answer it for you all. We all know that, like I said earlier, we all know that it's very difficult for somebody at 80% of median income to be able to purchase a home in the county, and in the city. So for that reason, the county has a program, it's a home buyer program. The city has a home buyer program. I think that 30,000 obviously might not even be enough to be able to make somebody at 80% of median income to be able to afford a home. Therefore, your best bet will be to piggyback both the counties and the city's program so that you are going to get more. Now, when you are doing that, you have to make sure that the county is not using the home funds. If the county are also using home funds, then we have to make sure that both of them, when you add both of them, you don't go over the what is called the maximum subsidy limits. Now, the county will check, the city will also check. So we will make sure that doesn't happen. The county sometimes use surtax money, which is a little different from the home funds. And in that case, you don't have to worry about reaching a maximum. All you need to worry about is the fact that the person meets the eligibility for both programs. So if you intend to use this program, my suggestion is please understand the county's program also, so you can add both programs and make sure it works for your client. Thank you.
Thank you, George. We'll go through some of the questions here. Terry Thompson is asking, how do you determine the amount? Is it a percentage? Terry, if you don't mind, is this in regard to the determination on the amount as to how much is given from our down payment assistance? There's some follow-up questions, George.
Yes.
Does the 3% have to come from the buyer, or can a certain percentage come from the seller?
I think they allowed a certain percentage to come from the seller if it is what do you call it? If it's a gift. Um, Whatever the secondary the lender would take, I think we would take it as the buyer's own funds.
Okay, perfect. Terry Thompson is also asking for income tax returns. How many years do you need?
Normally it's 2 years. Let me go back and to answer a question that they had said, which is how do you calculate the maximum amount that the person can get?
Mhm.
Now, if you all remember, affordability is defined as when somebody spends 30% of their income on housing. And so when we add the 30,000 to the deal, we expect that the first ratio, which is the front ratio, would be 30%, which means that particular property is now affordable to the buyer. Now, in some cases, what happens is that when you add the 30,000, instead of the ratio being 30%, the ratio goes down to, let's say, 20%. I'm exaggerating here. I'm sure in if you ever get that situation, that'll be rare, but it can go into 20%. If you go to 20% upfront, it means that you are over subsidizing the project. So you need to reduce the uh, the amount that you are given so that the income or the ratio will be a little over 20, maybe 25, 26, 27, 28. And so that's where we look at it and we see, okay, what's the maximum we can give this individual? And so that maximum can be less than the 30 the 30,000. So it's not a percentage or anything. It's just based on how much do we give this individual so that the front ratio gets to 30%. Sometimes ratio might be a little more than 30%, 33, 34, 35. If the lender accepts that, then the city will also accept it. But that um, will be based on circumstances that shows us that the person can afford those monthly payments.
Awesome. Thank you so much, George. I think Carrie Romero, I'm hoping Mr. Menta was able to answer your question. Her question was, what are the ratios you require? So I think you might have answered that one.
On the first
Um,
end, I think I didn't mention the back end. The back end is 45%. Um, if it goes to 50%, yes, but that is if there is a proof that this individual has been able to pay those 50% for maybe 2 or 3 years. Other than that, I think it will be very difficult to approve it at 50% on the back end.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Terry Thompson also had a question. He had the question as to for bank statements, how many months of bank statements and how many months for pay stubs?
The same amount that the banks accept.
Okay, as the mortgage
The
lender
lenders, yes, the
accepts.
mortgage lenders, yes.
Perfect. Awesome. We have a question. How do we contact the city to reserve the funds, to reserve the funds via email? What documentation is needed to reserve the funds? You just contact us via email, cdhs@homesteadfl.gov. You would provide us with the applicant's name. And then, George, do you think we'll be asking for any documentation to reserve the funds?
I think the mortgage pre-approval will be
Perfect.
important because if
Okay.
the person has not been approved, it's just a waste of time.
Perfect. That sounds great. So again, for anonymous attendee, we will ask that you email us, cdhs@homesteadfl.gov. You provide the applicant's information, any basic information, and then that you also provide us with the pre-approval from the mortgage lender that they'll be working with. That way, we also have the lender's contact information. As again, the most important thing to note for everyone is that this will be a lender-driven process. The lender will be contacting the city. The applicant typically shouldn't be contacting the city, as they should be working with their lender throughout that process. Mercedes Hernandez has a question. What lien position does the city need to be in? Can it be in third position?
Yes, the city normally will be in second position, but if another, um, not a lender, but another local agency like the county comes in, then the county normally will stay in the second position and the city will go to third position. That is to the extent we expect now. If the state comes in, then you might have state, county, and city, and the city might probably go in the fourth position. I don't think the home program doesn't, all it requires is that you have a mortgage or a lien. It doesn't say how many, what position you can be in. So whatever position we are in will be fine, provided that apart from the first mortgage will be in first position, the other positions will be held by a state or a local or a county.
Thank you, George. Nadine Roach has a question. Do you have a tentative or target date to launch? We're hoping that we'll be launching mid-August to end of August. We are trying to move fairly quickly to be able to get this program out. So we are very excited and we're working fairly quickly to be able to go live on this. Mr. Fernando Zamora, again, same question. When are you expecting the program to go live? Again, we're hoping for targeting for mid-August to end of August. How do we become an approved lender? Is it at a loan officer level or brokerage? Again, the city is willing to work with any lender who's willing to participate in the program. George, I'll defer the question for you as to
Yeah,
whether they have to be a loan officer level or brokerage level.
I think it has to be brokerage level. The reason is, these programs, the underwriters need to understand the program before you get a loan because you can get a loan, it will go to the underwriter and they will say, well, we haven't heard about this program. Well, how do we underwrite this program? So we typically want to make sure that at the brokerage level or at the bank level, that people understand what this program is about and that they are ready to approve a loan with such a program as part of it.
Awesome. He has a follow-up question where will there be a lender MLO Realtor registry? I don't believe so.
No, we were trying to do a lender registry, just a registered lender, just so that we make sure that this lender understands this program and this has been approved. Um, but we know that most lenders in the county actually belong to the county's program, and so we think that that shouldn't be a problem.
Mhm.
However, if you don't belong to the county's program and you have to show to us that or prove to us that your brokerage or your bank understand this program is willing to approve loans under this program.
Mhm. Can the home buyer take the HUD certification prior to the program becoming available? What is the expiration period of the certification with the city?
Yeah, normally most of our documents are expire in 6 months.
Mhm.
So if they want to take it now, that's fine, except the fact that they should be able to close on something within 6 months.
Perfect. I can go ahead and take this question. How much funds were allocated to the city? Will there be a site to check funds availability at any point? This might be actually a favorite question of mine. So yes, the funds that were allocated to the city, as I mentioned, this is a federal grant given to us on an annual basis. The city first became a recipient of this grant. I want to say fiscal year, which for us is October 1st to September 30th. If I recall correctly, we received our first allocation in fiscal year 24-25. This fiscal year 25-26 is the year that we're currently in. We received an allocation for the second year. And then just last night at our council meeting, our city council approved a submission to HUD to be able to receive our third allocation for the upcoming fiscal year, which would begin October 1st, 2026 to September 30th, 2027. All this information is actually on our website. I should probably go ahead and probably include that on the PowerPoint slide. It's under our finance department. It's homesteadfl.gov/CDBG. And from there, you'll want to look at our annual action plans. I would love to give you those numbers right now, but that might take a little bit of digging, and I don't have the numbers at the top of my head. To give you guys all more or less an estimate, we've received approximately $300,000 per year. And so these numbers tend to fluctuate as well, but it's about in that range that we've received the previous two allocations, and we're expecting to receive more or less the same in the upcoming allocation. So yes, you will be able to see the table of all the projects that are being used for our community development block grant, which that is a separate grant, and then our home investment partnership, which is the grant that is funding this specific program. You'll be able to see the exact amount that was allocated towards down payment assistance. If there will be a online tracker as to how many funds are left, not necessarily. That is something that we tend to report on the back end. And yet again, on an annual basis, the city is subject to reporting back to the federal government, in which we'll be able to report as to how much was used. Um, thank you all so much for your comments. We're glad you were able to participate with us. There's another question from Natalia Sarabia. Do you have an estimated date when the program might launch? Again, we're aiming for mid-August to end of September. Um, Let me just make sure I'm going through all these questions. Terry, I believe in the question for the percentage, George, he or she is asking about 2% from seller and 1% from buyer in terms of the 3% contribution.
If it amounts to 3%, there's nothing that will preclude the buyer us from rejecting this. So that should be fine. But you have to look at your lender. If the lender accepts it, it will also accept it.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you all for your comments here. I'm seeing them. Carl Smith has a question. Is there a scale to find the I'm not sure if you meant AMI or that he's saying he or she is saying IMI within the city of
AMI, I
Homestead.
think it's AMI.
Okay, I'm going to assume, Carl, you're referencing to the AMI within the city of Homestead. If so, where can I find it? There's actually a couple different sites where you can find it. I would follow the one that HUD provides because there's a couple of different housing programs depending at which level of government you want to look at it. There's the federal level, there's the state level, and there's sometimes the county level in which they will fund their programs within a certain AMI. But if you want to find the AMI specifically for the Miami-Dade County area, because it's important to note that it's not specifically tied to the city of Homestead area. It's more on a regional basis, therefore focusing primarily on Miami-Dade County. I know they recently published the AMI for this upcoming year, which became effective June 1st is when it became effective, and you'll be able to find that. If not, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to share with you the links as to where you can find that as well. Mildred Washington, same question. When will the program officially launch? Mid-August to end of August, hopefully. Um, we have someone asking for DPA to be forgiven. They have to live in the home 10 years, but what if they sell after 5? Will they have to repay the whole amount? The answer is yes.
Yes.
They will have to repay the whole amount, and I'll let George expand on that.
Yes, unfortunately, they have to repay the whole amount. If they don't repay, it means the city will have to repay the rest. Um, the regulation requires us to meet the 10 years. And so if the 10 years is not met, we call it affordability period. If it's not met, the fund has to be returned back to HUD. And that's the reason why the entire amount has to be paid back.
And to clarify on that point, if any of you have ever worked with other cities, I will give the perfect example of Mr. George Menta. He used to work for the city of Miami,
Yeah.
and I have always been amused by what they do. So the city of Miami, if any funds that they receive towards first-time homebuyer assistance, if for whatever reason that person is not able to meet the affordability period or something happens prior to the affordability period expiring, the city of Miami will ask for the entirety of the funds that they gave, plus George, if I remember
It's
correctly, it's
called
5%
No, it's called shared equity.
shared
So
equity.
we take a percentage based on the city's percentage of investment in the property. We take a percentage of the profit, and the reason is simple. If we when you give, let's say, $30,000 to somebody today, and then in 5 years they give you back the $30,000. That 30,000, the home costs, if it's 400,000 today, might be 500,000 in 5 years. So that 30,000 will not help anyone to be able to get a home. So you have a valuation of that 30,000. And so, but if you stay there for, in the city of Miami is 20 years. If you stay there for the 20 years, you get everything. We don't take a penny. So it's supposed to help people to be able to be stable in the community. It's the stability of the community. I'll give an example in Wynwood, right? In the 2023, 20, no, 2003, 2004, 2005, we sold homes there for 150,000. One of those homes was sold for $1 million in, I believe it was 2015 or so. But because we have the shared equity, the city of Miami was able to get more than 400,000 from that deal. Okay, because of the fact that the person obviously made a lot of money too, but the city of Miami was able to get 400,000. That can help maybe two or three people to be able to buy a home, and that's the reason why we do that. Actually, we our model is even taught at the you remember when you went to the workshop? We had
Yes.
somebody from Sierra come and explain, and and so the state thinks it's one of the best method of ensuring that we can continue to provide assistance to folks. So
Yeah, so here again, if the affordability period, if the home buyer isn't able to meet the affordability period, the city of Homestead will only ask for whatever was given so that we can go ahead and help out the next applicant. The next question from Alicia Collins. For the HUD course, can you take it at any time before the launch? Yes, they absolutely can, but it's important that it'll have a 6 month period expiration. So it is an 8 hour course. It's better to get ahead of the game than to wait closer to wanting to apply for the program. So, yes, you can do it before launch, but again, we will have a 6 month expiration date. If the expiration date has exceeded, then the person would have to go back and complete the course. We have a question from Giovanni Lebate. Will this loan subordinate, will this loan subordinate to do
So
a
rate
rate
and
and
term.
term, yes,
Yeah.
refinance, or will the loan become due if it's within the 10 years?
No, the city will allow subordination for rate and term refinance only if it's reducing the cost to the buyer. That's it. We don't allow cash out refinance.
Mhm. We have a question from Mario Serrato. When can we get the sample mortgage, note, guidelines, and buyer application to incorporate program onto our LOS? Once again, that's why I recommend everyone to subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on social media. Once we officially launch the program, all of these documents will be available. Again, it'll be available on our website, homesteadfl.gov/TPA, or you can also email me at cdhs@homesteadfl.gov, and I'll be more than happy to provide those documents so that you can go ahead and upload them to your LOS. Um, Jovita Carrillo has the question, what determines the amount the buyer receives?
I think I explained it earlier. It depends on the front end ratio. Um, we need 30%. But if the front end ratio is 20%, for example, then it means we have to reduce the amount so that the front end ratio will come up to maybe 26, 27. That's what determines the amount they receive. But I think in the city, I think most people will probably get 30%, 30,000, sorry.
Perfect. Some questions are coming up repeated, so I won't reread them again.
Yeah.
Fernando Zamora saying we should follow HUD slash FHA guidelines. Does that sound accurate, George?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. He's also asking if we, lender broker, get a DU approve, eligible with higher DTI, will this program be okay with it?
It depends on how high that DTI is. Obviously, if the DTI is the front end is 40% or so, we probably will not. I would not recommend that the city approves it. If the DTI on the front end is maybe 35%, then yes. If on the back end, is 55 or 60, no, obviously not. It depends on, and usually, if the DTI is usually higher on the DU approval, there's usually a reason. And so, if the reason makes sense, I think the city will probably accept it.
Wonderful. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. How come the certificate is only good for 6 months when they are typically good for a year?
Most hard documents, and I will check on that. Most of the documents that we use for the first time home buyer expires in 6 months. So, and that's the reason why I added that to it. Now, I go and look at the regs and it says 1 year, then yeah, we'll do it 1 year. But typically, most of the documents that we have to deal with will expire in 6 months, and that's the reason why I said 6 months.
Wonderful. So we'll go ahead, for the attendee, we'll go ahead and we'll check on our end. This is why perfect timing to host this informational session before program launch. It assists us, city staff here to be able to review everything, and make sure our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, to make sure that we are fully prepared and have all the proper guidelines put out there for our community. The last question we'll go ahead and take here from Carrie Romero. Can the home buyer class be taken online? So that's a great question, Carrie. When anyone goes to the QR code that I provided earlier with the list of all the HUD agencies, when you contact the HUD agencies, sometimes on their website, it'll tell you whether they offer it online, in person, or if they provide the hybrid option. From there, your client or whoever you know who's interested can go ahead and contact the agency and see which ones are available and which one fits best their schedule. So there's a lot of options. It just depends on the person as to which agency they choose to go with and making sure that they check beforehand as to whether what modalities they offer to make sure that it also lines up with their schedule. So I don't think we have any other questions. We're going to go ahead and end this session at 12:15. So we would love to give you guys 15 minutes back. So again, I thank you all so much for joining us, for spending the time and learning about our program. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us and make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, our social media, and we'll be excited to work with you all to make sure that we get our families and our community into home ownership here at the City of Homestead. So thank you again and have a wonderful rest of your days.
Bye, everyone.